You are listening to the 2 and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
I mean, it's just science, right?
Yeah. You could have made your hole bigger. Okay,
yeah,
wait, don't. Let me change what I just said. Actually, I don't think I can, if I'm honest.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the 2 and Out CFL podcast.
Now they have to kick it out, and they do!
Every week, Travis Currah.
Does anybody still care about this podcast?
And Brazilian Ty.
Hunters are people, too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Are you kidding? This is unbelievable!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are a part of the Alberta Podcast Network powered by ATB. Holy man, Brazilian Ty. My voice is sort of back after the Grey Cup on Sunday. I was in pretty rough shape.
Safe to say you sound probably 90% better than you did Sunday afternoon.
And I don't know why it went. Saturday night I had it. Sunday I didn't. I think
I have theories.
Okay. Let's go through those theories and just kind of wrap up the week that was in Edmonton for the 106th Grey Cup. You know what? Every single year I go into the Grey Cup thinking, this is not going to be as fun as last year. And maybe I don't think that, but sometimes I think, how is this ever going to top any previous Grey Cup? Everyone I've gone to, I have an absolute blast, but I think this one ranks up there as maybe the greatest of all time.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the festival committee. Everything was so centralized, super easy to get to. I know downtown was kind of a disaster with parking, but with cabs and Uber and the transit system itself in Edmonton, it was just so easy to get where you needed to go and be right in the middle of everything. Granted, I wasn't in the middle of everything on Saturday morning, but other than that little mishap, we were downtown or around everything that was happening basically whenever we needed to be.
Yeah, so let's kind of review the Grey Cup Festival in this podcast. The game, I think, has been talked about ad nauseum, so we'll just go through that briefly. Let's kind of go in chronological order. We'll start Wednesday night. I was actually in Red Deer working.
I hate you.
You hate me because we're starting with Wednesday? You were in Edmonton. And I think one of the biggest parts about Grey Cup, if somebody asked me, I'm going to my very first Grey Cup, I'm going to go there from Thursday until Sunday, do you have any advice? And I would say pace.
Don't black out day one.
Exactly. I would say pace. But now it seems it's growing every single year that Wednesday is now the time to arrive at the Grey Cup City. A lot of the veterans and the people that have been doing it for years have themselves kind of a meetup. And I mean, if you're going to your first one, maybe start with the Wednesday and meet some of these people that have been going to Grey Cups for decades. I guess I'm at a full decade of Grey Cups now. The next one will be starting the second decade. But how was the Wednesday night? Was this meetup at O2's?
It was at O2's,
Okay.
and from what I vaguely remember, before 9 p.m., it was a lot of fun. I got to meet Brian from the BC Lions podcast. I went with Andrew. Andrew from the Eskimo Empire podcast. Him and his wife were gracious enough to let me sleep in one of their bedrooms on Wednesday night, and thank God, because I was not functioning. And he took me to 7-Eleven, of course.
Perfect.
Joel Gasson was there. Josh from Podsky Wee Wee showed up. Ryan from the Horsemen. Piffles. It was a lot of fun. Got to meet some people that we only interact with on Twitter and some fans. And we had some cards out. We had buttons made. I was able to, I don't remember paying for them, but I guess I did. It was just an all-around great night. Probably shouldn't have drank double whiskeys on an empty stomach. I have two rules. And the two rules are don't drink doubles before supper, and rule number 2 is remember rule number 1. And I didn't eat at all on Wednesday, and the first thing I ordered was a double Gibson's and ginger ale, and the night just went downhill from there.
Or uphill, depending how you look at it.
No, Andrew said by 9 o'clock I was a puddle, so I'm assuming that's downhill.
So this is so funny because Carlos from the CFL, he kind of runs the Twitter account, and I had messaged him earlier in the week. Hey, is there a chance you could hook us up with some swag to give away at 2 and Out Live? And he's like, yeah, I could do something for you. And he wrangled up some Grey Cup toques for us to give away at the big show. And I finally got details from him on Wednesday as to what we could do. And he's like, 10:30 Thursday morning, Shaw Conference Center. Meet there. So I'm trying to get a hold of you. It's not happening. And you finally read the message and you're like, what? I thought sound check was at 2:00.
Yeah, it was, my phone died by the time I got it plugged in. I was laying on the floor in the living room because I was as close to an outlet as I could get. And it was 10:15, and I'm like, oh, I guess I have to go downtown. This is not what I need to do right now. So I quickly sprayed on some deodorant and brushed my teeth as best I could. And poor Carlos, I probably smelled like a damn brewery, but he gave us toques and wanted to make sure that we gave him all the info we could from 2 and Out Live, the pierogies and all that stuff. So it was good. I apologized a couple times for being late, but he seemed okay with it. He gets it. It's everyone's Grey Cup, much like we saw at the coach's press conference.
Yeah, what happened at the coach's press conference?
I can't remember who it was, but he stumbled through a question. And Rick Campbell looks at him and goes, oh, rough night? And it was somebody that they knew. It was one of the media members that they had dealt with before. And he looks at them and goes, yeah, it's my Grey Cup too.
Oh, that is absolutely
that's Grey
awesome.
Cup. That's a Grey Cup to a T.
So showed up. I got there to Edmonton Thursday. Oh, man. And you can imagine the stress. So 2 and Out Live started at, the doors were to open at 3:00 and the show at 3:30. We were supposed to be there at 2 for sound check. Then at about 12:30, I realized that I left the charger for my laptop in Red Deer. That was a stressful little while there. So I ended up hitting up a store in the City Center Mall in Edmonton. I was a bit late to sound check at 2 and Out Live, and I ended up not even using my laptop because it got emailed to your phone, and I think it ended up working okay. But at the end of it all, 2 and Out Live, I don't know if, I think we should do it again, but I don't know how it gets topped. Everybody that showed up was so awesome. And honestly, I'll be honest, going into it, I was concerned that the audience would not have fun for the entire hour that we did the show, but it seemed like they did. And it passed on to me. I had an absolute blast there. At the end of it all, we ended up raising $485 for Wellspring Edmonton, the charity that CFL Fans Fight Cancer were supporting. 2 and Out Live was just so awesome. And I think compounded by the fact that your mom was our biggest fan.
Man, I really thought her and my godmother were going to be only two in the seats. When she took off her jacket and had the 2 and Out T-shirt, I was like, "This is not happening right now."
So she asked me to sign it too.
Yeah, first, not even me. And then eventually, she was nice enough to Zach Evans, and he was in a better mood after than we thought he would be, and he was willing to sign the shirt as well, which was awesome. So I'm sure that's probably going to be hung up in the living room somewhere, right next to my grad picture. But no, lots of fun, and and we had somebody, at least one person from each team.
We did, yeah.
Fan-wise, we didn't realize at the time when you mentioned Hamilton, but Josh from Podski Wee Wee was in the back. We kind of forgot about him. He kind of just slipped in back there. And the entire Argos fan base showed up, which was nice, all three of them. So it was a lot of fun. I can't believe you ate 18 pierogies in under 2 minutes. It's kind of disgusting. It did not help my hangover. But it was damn impressive, and I think a lot of it goes to Ryan and Janine for hopping on with us, because they were a lot of fun too.
The real stars of the show were them. We were just kind of steering the ship a little bit. But yeah, it was so funny because leading up to it, you said you weren't going to be able to watch the pierogi eating competition, but you ended up being like the official, so you kind of had to.
But I made sure not to look at your mouths. I just watched how many pierogies were left.
Okay.
And then when I watched the video after, I was like, oh my God, I'm getting sick again. And this was, Monday when I watched it for the first time, and it's impressive, but at the same time, it's goddamn disgusting.
So I still haven't watched it. I don't know if I will.
Do you remember how you started?
Okay, well, tell me, how did it start? Because
you picked up 3 pierogies and shoveled them into your mouth all at once.
You see, I don't even remember that.
See, you blacked out. You were competitively blacked out. You were too in the zone.
Well, here's the thing. That was my
your Grey Cup. Yeah.
That was the closest I will ever get to a championship.
Well, no, didn't we win dodgeball in high school?
We did. We totally did. So, it's on that level.
Which is pathetic.
Winning intramural dodgeball in the 12th grade was one of the greatest things and greatest sporting achievements of my life. And I was the GM of that team, so that meant so much. I was GM player. I was Reggie Dunlop.
You were Reg Dunlop. We won't use any of his quotes on this.
So yeah, that event on Thursday with the Pierogi Challenge, I think a lot of people bet against me, and I'm not throwing it in your face. I'm not saying eat a plate of crow. Because Zach was in my head, and maybe I thought that I had to eat 3 pierogies at a time to have a chance here.
But then once he started to chew, you were able to gain a little bit of ground, and then he looked over and saw how far behind he was, and he started swallowing them whole.
Yeah, he caught up.
And that's when it got interesting.
So the pierogies came from Shumka Ukrainian restaurant in Edmonton. I ordered them skip the dishes. And
which is the greatest thing ever.
They showed up before the show, so they weren't the freshest by the time we ate them. And I've been in pierogi eating competitions before, but once I passed the 12 mark, and I was at about 13, I really slowed down, and I was in some real pain. I was not feeling good, and I kind of thought I was going to have to tap up, but Zach ended up catching up and pushing me to my limits, and there you go, crowned pierogi champion. Ryan from the Horseman Radio ended up doing play-by-play.
Some of the best play-by-play I've ever heard.
So if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to the CFL Pierogi Challenge and 2 and Out Live. Actually, Giacomo was there from CBC Ottawa as well. And the audio ended up getting played in Ottawa. I was on his morning show on Saturday morning. So everything about that event was amazing. If you bought a ticket, if you came out and enjoyed yourself at 2 and Out Live, I can't say thank you enough. It was just a crazy, crazy event. Afterwards, everyone's getting pictures, having a blast, trading CFPN cards. The Eskimo Empire boys had the Canadian Football Podcast Network cards, and those were so cool, although there was a printing error on mine, which apparently I approved the proof, but I do not remember seeing it.
I'm taking zero responsibility for this.
You're taking zero. You're the one that said looks good, aren't you?
No, I don't remember. But let's be fair, I don't remember a lot of things for obvious reasons.
So under my name, it says @FreeBalicious, which of course is not my Twitter handle.
So Andrew got like double the followers this week.
Look at that. He's the pierogi king.
I love how you changed your Twitter name to Pierogi King, by the way.
Yeah, just for Grey Cup Sunday.
That's
just
amazing.
For Grey Cup Sunday. And
should have been the real Pierogi King. And then people see the real, and they're like, oh, this guy's legit.
Then it can get a blue check mark and everything.
Yeah. If Grady's got one, you can get one.
So then Thursday, 2 and Out Live happens. We kind of go our separate ways. And then I think we all ended up at the Spirit of Edmonton that night, which every single Grey Cup, it is the party of Grey Cup, and the Thursday is almost like, the diehard event. You got in, I don't know what time.
It's homecoming.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I got in, with an hour and 15 minutes to last call because I waited in line for an hour and a half, but people they're going off on it and they're crapping on it, but this is exactly what they did in Regina. If the waiting room has beers, it's okay. Put me in the waiting room.
It's no spoiled rotten, but you're out of the elements and there's booze, so I don't know why you're complaining.
Yeah, I'd rather that than just wait in the line with nothing.
Yeah, like I waited in line for maybe 20 minutes, got up the stairs, was in the waiting room, ran into one of the season ticket holders for the Eskimos that we know through the tailgate in west of us, and we just hung out by the door. And eventually, one of the security guards was like, "You two ready to go?" And I'm like, "I can be." And I chugged my beer, and we went upstairs.
Yeah, exactly.
You just got to know how to play the game.
I guess one minor complaint: Spirit of Edmonton was one of the smallest rooms at Grey Cup.
Yeah, it definitely could be bigger.
Yeah.
I understand that there's no affiliation with the CFL, the festival, or the team, but they got to know that, that especially in Edmonton, this party is going to be in high demand, and maybe it's a volunteer thing, maybe it's a cost thing, but I was talking to people, and it's like, well, the Agricom is open, and it's an LRT. I mean, it's easy to get to. Easy to get back downtown. Maybe they don't want to be that far away, but it seemed a little small. But I didn't have that big of a problem with it because, they have the waiting room, and it's not that bad.
I missed the last LRT that night.
Yeah, but I was in bed by this point.
Yeah, so you left, and I'm sitting in the lobby of the hotel chatting it up with some Bomber fans. In comes Mike Riley and Odell Willis.
Hashtag tampering.
Yeah, I don't know. Odell trying to get Riley to come to BC or whatever. Of course, the CFL awards were that night. Bo Levi Mitchell gets the MOP. Big Hill, the most outstanding defensive player. Lewis Ward had himself a night. Stanley Bryant got the most outstanding offensive lineman. So there were a lot of CFL players out on the town dressed to the nines. And Riley walks in. So me and these Bomber fans all get into a photo. And Odell Willis takes the photo. There were multiple moments throughout the weekend in Edmonton where you said, in what other league could this possibly happen? Mm-hmm. One was Zach Evans challenging me to a pierogi eating competition. Another one of those moments is Odell Willis taking a fan's phone and taking a picture of Mike Riley with a group of fans. Incredible what happens at Grey Cup.
And that's the best part. To me, I don't want to crap on it, but the game is secondary. The parties and the fellowship and getting to see people you only see once a year, and the social aspect and meeting all the players that are there, whether it be at the festival for the team or for the league sanctioned stuff with Shaw, or just running into them like we did, whether it be Mookie Mitchell a couple years ago in Winnipeg, and he was at Spirit of Edmonton again. But you run into these guys, and they're more than willing to take pictures. They're more than willing to have a 2-minute conversation, and it just doesn't happen in any other league, and it's awesome.
So, it was worth missing the last train to have that interaction with Odell and Riley. How mad was
Taylor at you, though?
She was okay. She values sleep. And she got to meet Riley last year at the Grey Cup in Ottawa, so she was okay with that. Me, I have not. She had more sleep that night than I think my weekend combined. So,
yeah, probably.
Friday morning, we head downtown for the State of the League address at the Westin, the same room as the Spirit of Edmonton. So whoever had to clean up that room and get it ready for the State of the League, 2 thumbs up go to you for that hard work.
I guarantee the dance floor was still sticky.
Yeah, it had to be.
Like when we went on it Thursday night for the last couple songs, my boots were sticking to the floor. With all the booze that was spilled on it. It was brutal.
Oh, that is so awesome. So then, that happens. We kind of take it easy for the afternoon, and then we head to the Schooners room
Man.
For Friday, it opened at 3 o'clock, and I got to say...
Well, did it, though?
So one of the volunteers for the Schooners said that the alumni lunch went long. So it ended up delaying the opening of the Schooners room. And then I don't know if there's an excuse for this, but I think what happened is that the staff at the conference center were overwhelmed by what was happening that entire weekend. And they were just not prepared for a lot of what was going on. But, man, it ended up being a good time after a shaky start at the Schooners room, I think.
Well, and once we found a table and the other bar that was not nearly as busy for some reason, it's like nobody knew it was there and it was perfect. It was a lot of fun. The Joe from Rouge, White, and Blue showed up. Josh again from Podski Wee Wee. We had Janine and Podcast Brian and the Atlantic Schooner or the Atlantic Zone coverage guys. We all had tables kind of right beside each other, and it was a lot of fun. I didn't have a lobster roll because I'm not gonna eat seafood at some conference center where it's not fresh. That just does not appeal to me whatsoever.
I had a lobster room. They were making the lobster, man.
Yeah, but it other than the shaky start, it was a lot of fun. They had the announcement, of course, which is the whole reason why we really wanted to go on the Friday. And it was packed. It was a blast. The different dance teams that come through and everything. It was a lot of fun. But with where we were, it was impossible to have a conversation.
Yeah.
So that might have something to do with your voice.
Yeah, with the music on, you had to yell. But it was so worth it. And you know what? We left that night. We went to a pub. Had some beers.
For the second time that day.
Yeah, and had some fun and actually called it an early night. And part of the reason was my Saturday was about to be the craziest Saturday I had in my Grey Cup career. And I think we're at a point where I can call it a career because earlier that day, ran into Giacomo from CBC Ottawa. He asked me if I could do his morning radio show live. So I had to be at CBC Edmonton for 6 a.m.
And I was still sleeping.
And I wonder why I lost my voice.
Yeah. Between, Thursday night outside for an hour in the cold.
Yep. And
then screaming at Spirit of Edmonton during Spoiled Rotten, who, by the way, is the best cover band you'll ever book for anything. If you have a chance to see these guys, no matter where you are, you have to go. Friday night at Schooners, absolutely having to scream, and we're 5 feet away from each other to have a conversation. And then you're on the radio first thing in the morning on Saturday, and then you emceed the CFL Fans Fight Cancer thing or fundraiser on the Saturday afternoon, which was also a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was an absolutely awesome time. So I catch the first LRT at 20 after 5. I got maybe around 4 hours of sleep. So I did the show with Ryan and Janine, and it was incredible. And Giacomo was great. And then right after it, went to the Spirit of Edmonton breakfast where you were nowhere to be found. And I'm getting to the point where, man, this guy's my buddy. I'm kind of worried about him.
And Mike put out basically an Amber Alert on Twitter.
And you finally came to life at what, about 11?
10:30, 11 o'clock. Yeah, so we called her an early night. I went to bed when I got back to the hotel. I had some leftover pizza. I had a piece or two. Woke up about 1:30, really bad heartburn, a little bit of a headache, tossed and turned. So I popped an Ambien. And I was dead to the world till I woke up and texted you back. I don't regret my decision. I will never regret that decision because I obviously needed some sleep. So in my eyes, that is a savvy veteran maneuver. I'd like to thank my mom for giving me prescription drugs. Huge help for the weekend. Got me through because there's no way I could have survived Saturday without that sleep.
I am convinced that the sluice juice did a number on my voice.
Probably didn't help.
At the Spirit of Edmonton breakfast. From what I can tell, it's probably got champagne, orange juice, and vodka, and maybe some orange pop. So all of that stuff for your vocal cords is not good.
No, and that's why the Eagles don't drink when they perform or they do any band activities, because it dries out your vocal cords. So this week wreaks havoc on everybody. I'm surprised I didn't lose my voice. I also took it really easy Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because I am an idiot and decided to get blackout drunk on day one like I do every year, and I never learn.
So after the Spirit of Edmonton breakfast, which was awesome, we headed over to O2's. You had some, bad memories of Wednesday night, but we were there to raise money for Wellspring Edmonton. It was the CFL Fans Fight Cancer event. I believe the 13th time they've been doing it, and it was so cool and so packed in there. We had players showing up. Nick Lewis was in the house. Javon Johnson, Devon Claybrooks ended up showing up at O2's for CFL Fans Fight Cancer, and in that few hours, over $5,000 was raised for Wellspring Edmonton. It was an amazing event.
Yeah, with the 50-50s and all the silent auction items, it was awesome. Thanks to Coach Vic, we were able to get rid of a lot of cards. He seemed to be more knowledgeable than I was as I was trying to eat my lunch. And he was giving away packs left and right. Got the Vanier Cup on. We made it a whole football afternoon and lots of fun. And then, you announce the 50-50 winner, and it's kind of quiet for a minute. And I'm thinking, we're going to have to redraw. And then we hear a ruckus from beside the bar, and Javon Johnson, in the loudest Tiger Cats jacket I have ever seen, had won the 50-50. And I don't know what other sport, what other league you're going to find this in where a player wins 50-50 among the peasants that are fans, that aren't in the inner circle of athletes for the most part. And he shows up to this event and wins the 50-50. And it really couldn't happen to a nicer guy with all the charity work that he does too.
Yeah, and he ended up buying a tray of drinks and serving it to fans.
And he served them. That might have been the best part.
Yeah, it was just an awesome afternoon. So after that, we stayed at O2's for a bit, strolled back downtown, and went to the Boston Pizza sports bar tent they had, which, what an awesome idea.
But it was the most Canadian thing ever, because we were inside, it was warm, but there was nowhere to sit. And we were all dressed to be outside as it was, so we grabbed some tokens and some drinks and went outside and found a picnic table, thinking, there's a tent around it, there's probably a heater in there. No heater, but we sat there for a half hour in the freezing cold having drinks, dressed in our winter clothes, just because we wanted to sit down. And that just seems insane to me looking back. And if somebody would have walked out there and saw that was like, what, like, to define Canadians, that's it. Like, you guys are dumb. There's a whole tent with heat in it. What are you doing out here? But it was so nice to finally get off our feet, because my feet were killing me after all the walking I did that week, and my toe, like I said on Thursday, was on fire, and it's now subsided. But man, Grey Cup week will take it out of you if you're not careful.
Well, and that Boston Pizza sports bar is I'm just going to put it this way: it's the first time I had a BM since the pierogies.
Oh, yeah, we thought you got stuck.
Well, I almost fell over and knocked the outhouse over.
That would have been hilarious. I would have left you.
No, you wouldn't have.
No, yeah, because Taylor was there. Joe and I would have been gone. Like, I'm out of here.
Oh, and then after that, we go to the Grey Cup meetup, which, man, we were in the same venue for Two and Out Live a couple days ago. But the CFL staff put together an amazing venue, and they spruce up that place. The lighting, the signage, the DJ going, the prizes they have.
DJ Mello.
Yes, from the Eskimo games. Everything they do is amazing, and they do everything top-notch, and they make sure every fan feels welcome. Enoch Mwamba was in the house. S.J. Green was there. We met Naaman Roosevelt earlier in the day. Andrew Harris ended up showing up. The Grey Cup meetup was just an awesome time. There's nothing bad I can say about it.
The only thing is that they changed the date. And I get the whole venue and wanting to keep it close. So it coincided or kind of bumped into the concert that they had. But it was so much fun while I was there. I had a blast. And like you said, Henoch Mom was there. We showed up, and I even said, man, really sucked you getting cut and, not on the Riders anymore. He's like, hey, man, football's a business. And to hear that from him and not just, hear people, not just hear it on TV, but to actually him tell you it personally, it just shows you, these guys know what's up. And, if they get cut because it's money, well, they're going to have to go make money somewhere else, and they get it. So it kind of just gives that human aspect. But I think the highlight of the meetup was Zach Evans when he showed up and showed you how to shotgun a beer properly, because he dummied you.
Okay, I got to pull back the curtain a little bit here, because there was also Kim Mitchell, Loverboy, and Trooper. And we ended up going to the Shaw Conference Center to catch Trooper. And you ended up playing referee between my wife and I. Because they took my ticket, they ripped it up, and I was like, oh my God, I have to go back to the meetup. They scanned her in. You ended up having an extra ticket. It all ended up working out in the end, because I went back to the meetup while you were at the concert. And I walk into the meetup, and they announced me as the winner for a set of winter tires from Cal Tire, some Grey Cup tickets, and a pregame on-field experience at the Grey Cup. Honestly, man, completely blown away that this is all happening. So then, yes, Zach's there and challenges me to a shotgunning competition, which I had never done in my entire life. And let's face it, man, I was up at 4:45 that morning. I'm not even gonna, people are chirping me for losing this, but I have no shame. I thought I did okay.
You did average. I mean, Zach, I think it was literally 2 seconds, and I don't know how. I don't know if he cheated. I don't know if you let him win, like you let him, or like he let you win the pierogi contest. But it was damn impressive what he pulled off.
Well, I'd never shotgunned a beer before, and I looked at his beer compared to mine, like before we opened them, and the hole on his beer was probably the opening to a coffee mug. The bigger the hole, the quicker it goes. Yeah. It's just science, right?
Yeah. You could have made your hole bigger. Okay, yeah, don't. Let me change what I just said. Actually, I don't think I can, if I'm honest.
I should have made it bigger, but I didn't. It was, first time doing it, and it was unsanctioned. So don't go adding that to the record.
Oh, here we go. Excuses.
It's not an excuse. It was unsanctioned.
Yeah, but it's still got to add it to the record. But
if Floyd Mayweather gets in a fight at a bar, he's not going to add it to his record.
Well, not his fighting record, but to his criminal one.
All right, but I had fun taking a lesson from Zach Evans. Another thing how the heck does this happen in any other league?
It's the best.
And actually, Katie, who works for the CFL, came and said some really cool words to me about the podcast and what we have said about the Grey Cup in the past. And it was really, really cool to hear that from the people that work so close to the game day in, day out. I don't know if there could be a better group of people on earth. There's such a cool group of people that work for this league.
Well, and it started when, on Wednesday when you were talking to Carlos, and Thursday when I met him, and they really wanted to be involved. And help promote the live show and make sure that video got out of the pierogi eating contest, and they wanted pictures. And Friday at the meetup, not at the meetup, at the State of the League, they got people running around doing a bunch of work to pull that event off. Yeah. Saturday, Andrew and Mike, and Kayla from the Eskimo Empire, they weren't initially invited. The Grey Cup committee made sure that they were there because they're a huge part of the CFL community, and these guys pull out all the stops for this week-long party and a celebration of this league and this game, and it goes it's almost a thankless job. Like nobody ever stops to say thank you to the people who do this. And it's I can't imagine the workload these people have. It's just amazing what they do.
Yeah, I think this Grey Cup actually set a record for the amount of events that you could do, and it is impossible to take it all in, but they were all done top notch. And what this game means to the fans, and it just makes me more and more of a fan every single time I go. I can't really describe it or put it any other way. It just means so much to me, and I think the people that work there, they know that it means so much to the fans, and they make it better and better somehow every single time.
And they feed off the energy of the people.
Yeah, they do.
Like you. This was your 10th straight, and I mean, yeah. There's like I think it was Bruce Arthur or Steve Simmons. Like the Super Bowl was made for the corporate suit and tie guy. You know, that's how the NFL pays a lot of their bills or thanks a lot of their sponsors. CFL is built for the blue collar worker who wants to take a little bit of a holiday and party his face off for 3 or 4 days, and they throw a football game at the end. Like you don't even have like. I know it's a Grey Cup festival, but if you're not a football fan, you can still have fun at Grey Cup. And I think that's the amazing part, is that you don't even have to like football and you can still have an absolute blast.
I think every Canadian should go once.
Yeah, you have to show up you have to start Thursday night and just experience as much as you possibly can.
It might be impossible to go once. I think that would be my warning.
Yeah, it's like my first one was 2013. The Riders won. I'm like, I'm never going to a Grey Cup again because I'm 1 for 1. I'm perfect. And then Winnipeg really soured me on it after the experiences that we had there, because that was an unmitigated disaster for the most part in a lot of aspects. In the last couple of years, just with work and stuff, it was really hard. But it being in our backyard, us being season ticket holders in Edmonton, it's so easy for us to get to. It's cheaper because we can drive. Granted, we spent money on other things, so it works out to about the same. It's just one of those things that just it brings, and like the football community. It doesn't matter what color you wear. Everybody's friends. Yeah. The only time I got chirped about anything was at the game, and it's because Stampeder fans were drunk and trying to tell me that Ottawa's already taking my money and screwing me over, so why let them win again? It's like, if we're gonna make this political, we're not having this discussion.
How did you like the concert?
It left a lot to be desired.
In what way?
Well, I hated the fact that I missed Kim Mitchell. Because he is in my top 5.
Right.
I love Trooper, don't get me wrong, and Loverboy I'm indifferent to. I like Loverboy, but at the same time it's like I'm not a fan of Loverboy. They looked old, and I thought Mike Reno from Loverboy was going to die on stage. It also could have been the fact that I was pacing myself well. It's just the amount of people and the constant standing and, having to yell to have discussions. I was just getting wore out, beat down. I ended up leaving a drink on the table. I'm like, I'm done. I pulled the adult move, the rule, you never have to finish your last drink. And I shut her down and I went home. It was a lot of fun. We ran into Janine and her husband there, so we were able to party with them. And Ian, who sits behind us at Eskimo Games, was there with his wife. And it was a good social event, and it was a lot of fun. But I mean, if we're gonna keep dredging up 80s Canadian rock bands, I think that concert might go the way of the Dodo Bird, because at some point the fans of those bands are not going to be going to Grey Cup anymore. And then we're going to end up with Justin Bieber at the Shaw Conference Center in 20 years, and I don't know if I'm going to want to go to that.
So we get to game day, and I got to go onto the field beforehand, which was really cool. I'd been on the field at Commonwealth before, but to be there for Grey Cup game day was something else. There is a different buzz in the stadium when it is Grey Cup game day. And Man, that was really cool to do. Get into the stadium about 2 hours before kickoff, and have a lot of fun at the Grey Cup. So I guess let's talk about that game a little bit. Congratulations to the Calgary Stampeders. They win 27-16. Eric Rogers played with a torn meniscus. Derek Dennis was hurt. He had surgery on Tuesday before the rally in Calgary. But the big storyline in this one, and I know Trevor Harris threw himself 3 interceptions, but I mean both threw 2 at the end of the day. It was just the Ottawa offense.
One to Jonathan Rose, let's not forget.
Yeah. Ottawa just could get nothing going, and a lot of people blame that on the field and the field conditions, and I'm kind of confused how this all happened, to be completely honest with you, because there have been colder Grey Cups where the field conditions were not referenced like in this game, and I kind of think it's on the Eskimos. They were out of the playoffs a month ago, and they just let the field sit. Apparently in Winnipeg, they tarped the field and heated it up. So by Grey Cup, it was okay. It kind of looks like in Edmonton, it was neglected for a month up until basically game week.
Yeah, and normally, when Arash Madani tweets anything about the CFL, I read it and I'm just like, oh my God, shut up. But when he mentioned that, this field was never covered or taken care of like in that aspect, I thought that's a little, if he's right, that's a joke. It is a championship game, and I know people are going to, if we had it earlier, this wouldn't be an issue. Shut up. That's not the narrative that we're going to go with here, because that's not the reason people want the game moved up. It's not field conditions. So in my opinion, that argument is moot. If you're going to have an outdoor championship game in the prairies in November, that field needs to be covered for as much as possible. Yeah. And kept at a decent temperature, or even if you could just keep the precipitation off, they'll stay. It won't be a block of ice like it was. It wasn't in the greatest shape. It's not the worst shape a field has ever been in. Let's look at the Ice Bowl, but if that needs to be covered. It's something that the CFL, I'm sure, will look at. It needs. I don't know if it was on purpose or if it was just something that was an oversight and wasn't looked at. And by the time they realized that it was too late, because they got to get the sponsors and everything painted on there. To get a tarp that size and get enough heat in there. It would take a while, like you said. If they could do it for 3 weeks or a month, then it's probably not an issue. But once they figured it out, I think it was too late, which is unfortunate because it did affect the game. But at the same time, both teams have to deal with this. And if William Powell can rush for 94 yards, there's no reason that it can't be a decent football game. And it wasn't terrible. You can tell the field conditions were a huge issue, but they're a huge issue for both teams. And I don't think it's what cost Ottawa a Grey Cup, and I don't think it's what won Calgary a Grey Cup. I think Calgary just made more plays.
Well, the Red Blacks themselves said they played on that kind of field in the East Final.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Greg Ellingson, wide open, first play of the game, dropped the ball. And who knows what happens if they convert that first down. It could be a completely different game. So, and if he makes that catch in the end, that catch had nothing to do with field conditions. The only play, I know guys were slipping, but the defense has to have footing too. So you just kind of have to manage it. But it could have been, the field conditions could have been a heck of a lot better. It's too bad they weren't. And now we have to deal with a whole new moving the season up narrative because of it. But that was never the issue to begin with. So people using it, I think, is a bad look. But we're going to have some people that say, if it's not an issue, or if moving the season up isn't because of the fans, when they can do it for field conditions, well, that you can't just change your argument because it works for this week. Sorry.
Well, and it was a bad field on a nice day. That was the unfortunate part of it, because the weather for Grey Cup, I don't think we could have asked for anything better.
All week was really good.
Yeah, 2010 was worse. 15 was colder.
They tried saying it was only -2, and no.
I know.
I don't know where the Edmonton
game.
Weather News are getting their info from, but they should probably look at that because it's almost like they're getting it from Fox News.
So
because it was fake.
I don't know if it was the new turf they put in for the 2015 Women's World Cup at Commonwealth that didn't deal with the cold as well, but Ambrosie's already said they're probably going to look into some options here, whether it's under the turf heating or something like that. I think the turf was just neglected for a month because the Eskimos' last game was, the last Saturday of the season. It didn't matter. And then it was just left alone through freezing rain and everything else that happened.
They had to make
Alberta.
sure that they had to make sure their locker room was clean in 2 days after this game.
Yeah, they did that quickly.
Yeah, you know what wouldn't freeze like this that bad? Probably real grass.
Who was the ice bowl on real grass? I think it was, wasn't it?
I think everything would have been on real grass back then.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, it was also terrible weather for the week leading up to that game.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up the season. The Calgary Stampeders win. And you know what? The news is already coming out, and it's going to be a crazy offseason. The Bombers make it official. Jamarcus Hardrick has re-signed. The BC Lions have re-signed a couple international players, Ricky Lloyd, a quarterback being one of them, and it's been announced that Jonathan Jennings will become a free agent for sure, but they also do sign Odell Willis to a 1-year extension. And then this news came out. I don't want it to get political or anything here, but Halifax City Council is talking about tax hikes and things like that. Basically, there is no money in Halifax, and they have said that a new CFL stadium might just be a long shot unless they do jack up the taxes by a lot. And I know that we've got our hopes up here for the Atlantic Schooners Football Club, but I think this is just a reminder that there's a long way to go before shovels hit the ground and the stadium is standing.
And let's not forget the economy isn't fully recovered yet either. Oil was at $15 a barrel last week. The whole country is hurting, so it's not just like, money is going to be growing. I know money is paper. I know it grows on trees, but it doesn't just grow on trees. Taxes are going to happen. What I read earlier was it was going to be mainly focused on like hotel taxes and the tourist taxes, like rental cars and stuff. I never heard anything until this came out about other taxes. So, yes, the team has announced it's kind of a foregone conclusion that at some point this is going to happen. But the stadium is a huge hurdle, whether it's in Halifax or wherever it's going to be. Until something is set in stone with that, I think that we need to kind of back off the excitement a little bit. And 2020 is not going to happen. And we've said that before. 2020 is too soon. It can't happen. It won't happen. And it just looks like, might have to wait a little longer. But if that means a quality franchise and a quality ownership group, quality stadium, I think it's for the better, and a financial model that'll work to keep them alive and we don't want another renegade situation or another U.S. expansion situation, because that's just another bad look, and I'm sure Ambrosia doesn't want that either.
Well, the Atlantic director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, this is a direct quote. Why are we even having a discussion about a for-profit stadium, a big corporate welfare check from taxpayers, when council can't even make their current budget work without discussing a tax increase?
And as far as I'm concerned, government money shouldn't be used for professional sport facilities. I get it that in some places it is. Winnipeg, because it was built on campus, could use federal money, things like that. I think it's an absolute joke, but that's just my opinion. Because if you're going to have professional sports, you have to be able to support it yourself. And Daryl Cates twisted Edmonton City Council to get his stuff going. Calgary is going through the same thing, trying to get a new hockey rink there and a new football stadium. And we saw the Olympic bid fall through, and now everybody's blaming, we've lost the spirit. And no, it's because people know that these things cost money, and they don't want it coming out of their own pockets. for something they're going to have to pay to go to. It just, if an organization is going to make money, they should be able to front it and build their own facilities, or else it becomes basically a situation where you're just waiting for it to fail.
Before we wrap this thing up, we're saying thank you to Park Power today, a provider of electricity and natural gas in Alberta that offers low rates, awesome service, and profit sharing with local charities. In Alberta, one of the beauties is that you get to buy your energy from whoever you want to. Yeah. So Park Power shares its profits with local not-for-profits. They're based in Alberta. Smaller company, lower overhead. Savings get passed on to you. If you want to make the shift and the switch, go to parkpower.ca. That is parkpower.ca. All right, Ty, how would you wrap up the 106th Grey Cup in Edmonton?
A learning experience. Wednesday night will not happen again like it did. Pace and just embrace the whole thing and do as much as you possibly can when you're there. I almost didn't come out Thursday night as I was dying in my hotel room until I ordered pizza. And I rebounded and was ready to go. Maybe not as hard as I did in Regina or Winnipeg, but if you have the chance to go to a Grey Cup, I think you have to. Whether or not you go to the game is a different story. We knew people that came just for the festival and watched the game at a bar and flew home on Monday. So there's so much more than just the football aspect of Grey Cup and the Grey Cup Festival, and it's got to be on your bucket list for sure.
There's so many people that go to the Grey Cup that I only see at the Grey Cup, and I feel like if I didn't go, I would be missing them. You're becoming one
of those for me because I'm always working.
They are, they're family. The CFL family thing is not just a thing. It's not like a cliche. It's actually a real thing. The people that you see every year at the Grey Cup make it so, and the Grey Cup, the trophy itself, belongs to the people. And if you ask the CFL that, they will say exactly that. The staff, the people, the players all come together. The country comes together to make this an amazing event. So, Ty, are we going to see you in Calgary next year?
Absolutely. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, you know what started on Tuesday night?
What did start?
Teams could talk to coaches. We are in the coaches carousel right now, just waiting for the first shoe to drop.
Yeah. What are you predicting? Who's going to go to BC? Who's going to go to Toronto?
Oh, man. I think Orlando Steinauer gets one of those jobs. I think that June Jones should be the head coach in Hamilton still, just for continuity's sake. But, I mean, there's a lot of teams. I know they said Jason Moss is going to come back, but I mean, when a GM gives you the vote of confidence, that's basically the kiss of death, in my opinion. We see it in a lot of other sports. So I don't know. Corey Chamberlain's still out there. I know that teams could talk to him whenever they wanted, but he's still a viable. There's a lot of options right now, and I think that we just got to wait for the first shoe to fall, and we're going to see a lot of guys sign real quick. Just waiting for that first one. I don't know if it'll necessarily set the market, but teams will be coming forth with that news, and I don't think it's going to take very long because teams are going to want to do this before free agency and roster cuts, and then we have combine and draft. Teams want to get their head office. They don't want to beat Toronto 2 years ago, even though they won the Grey Cup.
It worked.
You want to get that stuff set before you get into the nitty gritty of the off season. So.
I'm going to say Steinauer in Hamilton, Chamberlain in Toronto, and Clay Brooks in BC.
Oh, that could be good. I think Clay Brooks is going to get a shot unless he wants to stay in Calgary and maybe go back-to-back and win one at home. That's I think with Calgary having the Grey Cup at home next year, I think that's going to be a huge aspect of guys sticking around.
That might be a big thing for Bo if he doesn't go to the NFL too, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
We are a part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. Thank you to Karen from the Alberta Podcast Network for helping with just about everything for Tune Out Live and that podcast last week. It was just an absolute blast, and if we were on our own, we would have been completely lost. So
yeah, the minute I walked in, she gave me a Coke, so it's basically a lifesaver.
Check out the I Have Some Notes podcast, hosted by Greg, Colin, and Scott. They punch up mediocre Hollywood movies, one podcast at a time, and mediocre is my speciality, my friend.
You're like your mediocre grammar you just exampled there, because that was bad.
And I want to encourage you to go on Twitter and send Alessia Cara a nice note, because her Grey Cup performance at halftime was awesome, and people were too busy crapping on her. She ended up saying that she's going to take a break from social media. She never said it was because of the Grey Cup halftime show, but I mean, when over 3 million people watch something and this happens, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. She's 22, 23 years old, and I thought she kicked some ass on Sunday.
And you know what? For the people that are, crapping on that performance, I didn't watch it. Granted, she's not my cup of tea. I'm not going to go out of my way, though, to crap on the performance because I don't like her music. I'm going to be honest, I couldn't care less about the halftime show this year, but that's okay. I'm not going to crap on it. From what I've heard, and I watched a little bit of it, she did a great job. She puts on a hell of a show. But for these people that go out of their way to troll, and we have one that does it to us on our podcast account, and he's a lunatic, but, it's so what? Like, your opinion, did you get what you wanted? Did you ruin her self-esteem? So that's what you're going for. That's what you did. Good for you. You're a keyboard warrior, and I hope you feel good about yourself, but you're a piece of crap.
All right. I don't
know if that's too far or too angry. I felt a little bit of John.
It was pretty good. There. It was pretty good, man. So I'd like to say thank you to everybody I met, but that would just be way too impossible. So if I saw you at Grey Cup, if we saw you at Grey Cup, we'll see you next year in Calgary. I think that covers it, right?
Yeah, and if you didn't get your trading card signed, bring them to Calgary, and we'll sign them there along with the new ones if we get new ones.
Hey, do you have any left, or did you give them all away?
I think I have 2 packs, and then I have 2 of mine and 2 of the podcast. So I hope I'm going to open these packs, and hopefully I find one of yours, because I have like a collage idea.
Okay.
Because I need something to decorate my condo with.
And I told you, I signed my name like a 12-year-old.
And yeah, I can confirm. And I didn't work on my Brazilian Ty signature, so they're all my real signature.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to, steal my identity, go ahead. I really don't care. You can have my debt.
Damn, that's the wrong identity to steal.
Isn't it, though?
I do want to encourage you to check out an online auction that's happening right now at 32auctions.com/burgers for charity. And the 4 is the number 4. So 32auctions.com/burgers for charity, raising money for YWCA Regina. My good buddy Darren from Game Changers Canada teamed up with Charleston Hughes of the Riders to make this happen. So there's a cool number of things up for auction there. A Riders team signed football, a Hughes signed jersey, CFLPA fan mystery pack. There's the Bob McKenzie book that came out not too long ago, and it's autographed as well. So 32auctions.com/burgers for charity. 4 is the number 4 in support of YWCA Regina. Give us a rating, a subscription on iTunes, and we'll talk to you throughout the offseason.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.